Hello, welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this. Today we're looking back on England's final group game of the first ever Nations League, where they were pitted against familiar foes in Croatia. Should we get into the pleasantries?
Yes, you all right, mate?
All good, mate, all good. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. I went to a football game last night. Came back very tired and depressed. So that was just a nice starter for the podcast.
I think we did a bit one too many rounds of how are you tennis. Then I think I said, "Are you all right, mate?" You said, "Yeah, I'm good. How are you?" "Yeah, I'm good. How are you?" Anyway, today we're looking back to the final group game of the inaugural Nations League. England against old foes Croatia.
Yeah.
It was inevitable that we would eventually come up against Croatia in this podcast because it does feel like we've played them an awful lot. We've steered clear of the big World Cup semi-final. Do you want to maybe explain the reasoning behind steering clear of that?
It's horrible. It's a horrible game to cover. I mean, I'm sure, we like you say, we played Croatia that many times over the last couple of years, and it comes in spells really where England when Croatia begin, they don't really, I think they play England a couple of years into them being a FIFA registered team, and then it's just nothing, and then it's a massive rivalry, then nothing again, and then a massive rivalry again, really.
I'm sure we'll get more into it, but Croatia, for me, at their source, at the very heart of two of the most heartbreaking England moments. I'm thinking Wally with a brolly, I'm thinking World Cup semi-final. But today it's the Nations League. Before we get into the game itself, part of our sort of time capsule content, we're putting one thing into the Is This England time capsule. Nick, what's yours?
So my thing from 2018 would be Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino by the Arctic Monkeys.
Mark speaking.
Yeah.
Please tell me, how may I direct your call?
Yeah, it was just something I thought from that period, it really just, there's that era of Arctics I think I really love. I think it encapsulates a lot of kind of like the way they wanted to change and a lot of the style as well. You always see Arctics when they come back, they always dress a different way and they're always like the way they look. And I just think that kind of, it sets the tone until the next Arctics album about how everyone a lot of people dress, really.
I think as well it would last well in a time capsule. It's quite forward-thinking album, yet classic at the same time. And a lot of robot chat on it as well, really, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit of sci-fi, certainly, for Ed.
Yeah.
I'll put something in the time capsule, and that would be Succession Series 1.
Oh, that's a good thing then.
Yeah, not bad. I guess the reasoning for that is more of, there's been better series of Succession. They're all great, but I think it's kind of getting better each series. But hopefully that can turn the future generations on to watching the rest of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Who knows? Maybe next time we do a game from beyond 2018, I'll put season 2 in or season 3.
I think as well, the time capsule will probably look a bit better once there's a couple in there, because at the minute it's like, what would you put in from 4 years ago?
Yeah,
so maybe a bit different. We can do some.
Doesn't need to be a time capsule, does it? I've got them both in my house.
Yeah,
on DVD and then iPhone. Anyway, the state of football at the time, we like to have a look around the England game that we're covering and see just what the wider world of football was looking like. 2018 doesn't seem that long ago, as you say, but I'm sure things are very different. Will Man United win any titles in 2018?
No.
Oh,
nowhere near it.
So what was happening?
So on the day of the game, Liverpool were top of the Premier League.
The day of the game would be, what we're talking, 18th of November 2018.
November, yeah.
So heading into Christmas, Liverpool top.
Yeah. So they ended up finishing second to City, with both teams accumulating the highest points totals for teams in first and second in the league. So it was that year of going into a relentless kind of run-in, really, where neither team dropped any points. But I don't know, maybe it's just because of kind of my own allegiances. But I remember kind of at the time going, it's not as interesting without the teams dropping points. It's just kind of a relentless thing and almost like a worry if you wouldn't, instead of, we can make it up against them. Or when you look at other title races that always seem interesting to me and the best ones from the leagues, it's when both teams kind of just trying to get over the line by the end.
Oh, definitely. But I did enjoy watching Liverpool in particular that year, because they really found their feet and discovered this incredible style of football. They actually won the Champions League this year, if I'm right.
Yeah,
Finished
yeah.
second, but won the Champions League.
In one of the worst finals I can remember watching against
Shocking.
Spurs.
Yeah, awful. It was free to air on YouTube, and I remember it was crashing, and it was just a complete disaster from that aspect. But I could, even through the jitterbug of YouTube buffering, I could tell that I wasn't missing much. Early penalty and a Divock Origi goal.
Yeah, I think early penalty, and it was a little bit dubious, but it's one of those games where if Spurs score first, then it becomes a much more interesting game. So I think Harry Kane was not really fit as well.
Yeah,
at that time it kind of like raced himself back, hadn't he?
Trying to gauge back my memory as well. That was this Champions League campaign. Things went very crazy, didn't they? Did Liverpool? It's the Liverpool, Barcelona,
Barcelona, Ajax, Tottenham. You had Tottenham City as well.
Yeah,
VAR right at the end. You had Man United v Paris Saint-Germain as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Atletico Madrid v Juventus. Ronaldo when he scored a hat trick against them and stuff like
maybe,
that. It felt like football. I think I remember putting on Facebook at the time. Football is
a Facebook update.
Is a game. Status. What was it? It'd be like football is a game or football is rigged. Basically, it's like wrestling. It felt like all the narratives were just coming home to roost. What about the bottom of the English table? Always worth a look. The English Premier League table.
Yeah, so Huddersfield, Fulham and Burnley were in the relegation zone at this point, with Huddersfield, Cardiff and Fulham all going down in May.
I worked with a Huddersfield fan at that time, and she wasn't too happy about it. But she was also like, we were very happy to have come up and just being in the Prem for a league, because I think they did overachieve with old Wagner. Yeah,
Wagner was in, but I remember going to Huddersfield away around this time, and they're like next to their ground is just like a little river lake that like just runs through it. I remember just having a can just sat next to that lake and just being like, it's a bit of a weird thing that they had, like instead of like a club shop, there's like a mega shed.
I'm picturing Mark from Peep Show with his binge drinking.
Yeah, 3 flavours of crisps.
Right then, we do have a game to address, but Croatia versus England is not a rivalry that can be encapsulated in one game. There's been plenty of previous meetings. It does seem like we went many years without playing Croatia. I certainly don't remember playing them much when I was a kid or maybe even a teenager. I'm not sure when the sort of break moment would have been where, okay, we played them once, and now I think it's been every year we've played them at least once for a good amount of time now.
It's pretty much, yeah. So Croatian Football Federation were founded in 1912, first admitted into FIFA in 1941. Croatia gained independence in 1992, and the Croatian football team were admitted into UEFA in 1993. So that's obviously, it's a breakup of a lot of other countries within that too. Really, they're quite an overachieving nation. I mean, for international football, reaching Euro 96 pretty much at their first tournament, and then 2018 World Cup final as well.
That's good going, isn't it? That is very good going, actually, when you come to think of it. But especially the Euro 96.
But it's not like none of their people ever played football. They just played football for different countries, but it was just that catchment, wasn't it? Of, well, they may not play in the national team altogether, but they found a way of doing it.
It must be interesting, the sort of national pride that you'd feel as a player playing for one of those countries after that breakup, and it must have just felt so intense.
Yeah.
I wonder whether, some stat nerd would look and see they all kind of maybe overachieved for a short while before maybe settling back down. But Croatia have consistently been at quite a high level. I would say at least equaling or better in England for the majority of the last couple of decades.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think, the first time England played Croatia was at Wembley in the build-up to Euro 96, and then England next played them at Portman Road, which was a warm-up for the next Euros.
When England were the travelling band?
Yeah, the travelling band. Again, thinking about England going around the country playing, that game that kind of sticks out to me, because it's like Portman Road, nice old ground. I think Lampard scored one of his first goals for England at that point, and it was really, really good. But then you've got England, we're going to play Croatia 6 times within the next 7 years.
Wow.
And
that's before even, that's before 2003 to 2010, before the next run,
Yeah.
So was the next run, would that be the kick-off with the World Cup?
Yeah, so you'd have the 6 games in 7 years, and they took a break from kind of putting each other on their backsides, because it was a rivalry that both teams kind of like hurt each other like quite big, really.
Yeah, well, the Wally with the Brolly moment will always be remembered. So obviously we played them in the Euros as well, and that's the most recent, I think. Surely we haven't played them since the Euros.
No. So you kind of look at the Euros as being that first game where England went and it was like, okay, what's this team going to do? There was a lot of, kick-off before the tournament about, kind of like the political stance of it and what the England fans are going to do.
Yeah.
Which, again, seems like a million years ago now, really.
It does.
Because by the end of the tournament, it was obviously the fans were talked about in a different way, but in terms of behaviour with things like taking the knee, it was all like a lot calmer by then, I think, because there was a couple of games England did play, maybe in Middlesbrough, and I think there was a bit of booing at that time.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, we don't have to talk too much about the well, I was going to say the wrongs and rights, but just the wrongs of booing that. But that was a game which England controlled, and it was impressive, and it was a good start to the tournament.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting games when you look back at the Croatia ones. Like the best memories for me would probably be Euro 2004.
Of course, yeah.
Kind of the game Rooney really exploded and the world was just like, okay, this guy's serious, basically.
That is such an amazing memory of that game. It was, we spoke about the Rooney hype train before, but that was it being set alight, wasn't it? And left to run down the tracks because he was exceptional in that game, really killed them off on his own, basically.
And then you've got, obviously, the next big meet in between them. I think England lost over in Croatia, but then they lost the return game as well in the group at Wembley in 2007. As we said, the Wally with the Brolly, which... Yeah, I remember being at university at the time and watching that and just not being able to comprehend that England weren't going to a tournament because it just hadn't really happened in my football supporting life at that point.
No, I think that's right. Would Graham Taylor have been the last one to not reach a tournament?
Yeah, it would have been USA '94, so it would have been definitely before my time, really.
Yeah. So we've said a lot about Croatia and England being a rivalry, but it's not. It doesn't feel like a bitter rivalry to me. It doesn't feel like I don't hate Croatia. Even in the World Cup, I wasn't like, oh God, them. It's not like with Argentina. There's not much needle.
No, I think there's not until the game comes around.
Yeah.
It seems to be something we'll kind of touch on in a bit when we kind of talk about the build-up because it comes so quickly after that World Cup semi-final that it seems that whenever they do play each other, both the sets of fans and the kind of the way that they use the media is really, really interesting. And like the players kind of stick it into each other as well when they go, you've said this about us, so that's disrespectful. We're going to use this as motivation.
Yeah. The classic, we hate England for singing Three Lions.
Yeah,
we've stopped them from taking football home.
Yeah.
Right then, so the context to this game, I mean, it's not long after they beat us in extra time in the World Cup semi-final. A World Cup semi-final which England got to against all expectations in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So they kind of exceeded expectations by getting to the semi-final. Had a relatively easy run, but previous England teams, I think, would have buggered that up somehow. I mean, they played well in the first half against Tunisia.
Well, that game would have been an easy one to bugger up because we scored a late goal. That would have just not happened in the past.
Yeah, I think England went 1-0 up and then they conceded a stupid penalty, which I remember kind of seeing at the time and just thinking it just wasn't anything. It was like a Kyle Walker put his arms up and it kind of hit the back of someone's head, and England really froze after that, and they got an injury time winner and kind of put themselves through there. They thrashed Panama in a game as well, which it was just kind of a fill your boots kind of thing, wasn't it? And then
a lot of fun though on a Sunday afternoon. And it was like, okay, England have gone to a World Cup and scored 6 goals. That's got to be a good thing.
And it was like a 12 o'clock kickoff, I think, as well. And it was really sunny and nice, and you just think this isn't going to happen too often again, is it?
I think I'd been out until like 6 a.m. the day, and then got back home and I was like, right, Mom, dropped me off at the pub, and straight back on it, and then took a ball over the field afterwards to have a kickabout in the sun. That kind of joy. Obviously, from there, England would go on to draw 0-0 with Belgium in a game where they kind of agreed to.
They lost actually. It was a 1-0 loss with I think it was Januzaj got the goal, and it was kind of like they both kind of played reserve sides. But it was like, do we want to lose? I kind of shook hands on, I guess Belgium are going to go through to the harder side of the draw.
Yeah, strange one that was. Everyone seemed to have an opinion on it, but we got through, and then we had Colombia. All-time classic game. Yeah,
ridiculous. I mean, definitely kind of one of the two really we'd want to do at some point, I think, from this World Cup. I mean, it was kind of dramatic, but it was also really tense, and I don't know, it was almost like a dramatic, boring game, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of highlights, but the quality was quite low. I think James Rodriguez wasn't playing for Colombia, and Colombia just decided they weren't going to play, and they were just going to try and kick England around and slow the game down.
Yeah, it'd been a long time because England had just generally been outclassed by opponents in the years before, where it'd been like, oh God, I hope we beat these because they're just being horrible. You know, this is just, they're kicking us, they're playing unfair, everything seems to be going against us. It's not like you can say we're just rubbish and we're losing by 4 goals already.
Yeah.
It's like we're in this game, but you can just sense that they're going to screw us. And obviously we came through that, beat Sweden in an absolute breeze of a game.
It was ridiculous, really. I mean, remember the build-up again? A lot talking about, oh, well, you know, England over there. They think they're just going to walk past Sweden, but Sweden saw that as an opportunity for them to get to a World Cup semi-final as well. And I remember before the game just thinking this isn't going to be easy whatsoever. But as soon as England scored, it was just a parade, really, right to get through the game.
Yeah, and obviously we met Croatia in the semi-final. I mean, Croatia had, to my memory, sort of set the tournament alight early on before kind of settling down into a bit of more of a low-key sort of route through to the semi-final. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think so. So they won all 3 of their group games, beating Argentina 3-0 in one of the games as well.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, setting it alight. That's not a bad way to showcase your talents at a World Cup, is it? Modric absolutely killing it. Rakitic getting a goal as well. I believe the group also consisted of Iceland, Nigeria.
Yeah, Iceland and Nigeria, which again, they just kind of breezed through. They were kind of a class above those other teams with those midfielders, but weird because they get to the knockout phases and they kind of freeze again. It takes 2 penalty shootouts for them to actually get to the semi-final against Denmark and Russia too.
Yeah, well, as I say, it did feel a bit low key. I still wasn't confident going into that game that England would smash it, but they had a moment, didn't they, England early on, where it looked like it was all going to go Southgate's way.
Yeah, I mean, it was Trippier's goal, wasn't it? It's really early on in the game. It's a ridiculously good free kick.
Such a good free kick.
There's a picture I've put in our notes, basically, and you just see where the ball is going, and the keeper has just got no chance. You think, oh, he's going to be able to get there, but it nestles so beautifully in that corner. I remember the pub that I was in, just lost it, really.
Yeah, of
you just thought, this is it. It's going to happen. This is an easy... Again, you had the Sweden game as a bit of a, oh, we're worried about it. But then that goal kind of goes in, you go, this could be more of the same.
Absolutely. I mean, the game, wore on. England kind of lost a bit of control. Croatia got themselves back into it. And then, extra time they did us. And afterwards they'd speak about our motivation was, battling against this English arrogance. And so therefore creating a bit of needle in advance, if more was needed for the game that we're going to cover.
I think so, definitely. And I kind of don't believe when they say, oh, actually, we believed the England thought all this thing and they were arrogant and saying, actually, it's the media that are blowing all this out of proportion. But in reality, I think they were just looking for something to use. It's kind of that Jose Mourinho, you against the world, and actually, well, they've said this, well, I'm going to twist it this way. So it just gets, even it gets like another percentage out of the players. I think that's worth doing.
100%, yeah. Well, 101%, definitely. And they'd obviously go on to lose the final to France. Both teams, however, would have a chance to lift a new trophy because they were drawn against each other in the Nations League, the first ever Nations League. Now, I just looked prior to this podcast, and England actually have a Nations League group pending. The games are coming up shortly. In our Nations League group this time around, coming up, is Italy. Another revenge match there. Italy, Germany, and Hungary. Now, the first Nations League was, I look back at it as being quite exciting. We had good games to play. Obviously, Croatia and I think Spain as well were in our group. But I've very much forgotten of what the whole format is, and it's very confusing. Can you explain at all?
Yeah, so from memory, there's a couple of groups, like top tier groups of three sides, and then whoever wins the most games out of that and finishes top goes through to semi-final format in a summer tournament. And that's what England were kind of hoping to do here, really. I mean, the idea that you could get relegated in international football was just something that was quite thrilling and just seemed inevitable for England.
Yeah, definitely. England getting relegated because we had overachieved at the World Cup, and it would be like, okay, now this is where we get really, we get put back in our place now, for sure. So the game we're going to cover is the final group game, and there was a bit of a, there's permutations running throughout this. I mean, some teams can go up, some teams can go down. It's all still sort of riding on the last day.
Yeah. So England started, relatively poorly actually in the Nations League group. So they lost 2-1 at Wembley to Spain in September. Travelled to Croatia in the October and got a 0-0. And I remember a game I just thought was just dreadful from what I watched of it. And then
Southgate out.
Yeah. And then a storming 3-2 win in Seville, which was just so unexpected.
Which I want us to cover on this because I missed that game and I have never seen it. And it just seems like so amazing. England took a sort of a 3-0 lead quite early on as well, didn't they? So we'll definitely have to do that. So Croatia, how had they fared in the Nations League group?
So they'd not done well at all, really, especially starting. So they lost 6-0 to Spain in their opening game before that awful draw with England. But the game before this one, and a couple of days before this game we're going to cover, they won 3-2 at home to Spain. So it was just everything was up to grabs. Everyone could go up, everyone could go down, everyone could just stay second and just take it, really.
Who's the other team in the group then?
So Spain and England and Croatia.
There's not a fourth team in the group?
No, just the three.
Bloody hell, so there's 4 this time, so it's expanded, right?
Yeah, it must have been, yeah. So again, I don't quite understand how it works with who's going up and down in some of them. I don't think England have been relegated yet.
Oh, surely not.
No.
Well,
so I think they drew. No, they won in Iceland a couple of years ago, and then they beat Iceland when they played the away game. And I think they've beaten Belgium and lost to Belgium. So Belgium must have gone through, and then Iceland must have gone down.
I was definitely excited for the Nations League because it was England, at the very least, it was England playing good teams rather than teams who they're just going to absolutely walk over as a nothing friendly.
Yeah.
It was obviously a chance to test ourselves against one of the world's elite in Spain, to see whether the World Cup was a fluke. At the same time, can we surpass Croatia, who've just knocked us out of the World Cup? And whatever you think of the competitiveness of it, whether it's actually a competitive league, it was exciting. And going into this game, I would have probably been hopeful. I think that England would be able to do the business.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting as well that there's 4 different outcomes basically that could happen with this game depending on the result. So if England win, they qualify for the semi-finals and Croatia go down. If Croatia win, they'll qualify and England will go down. If it's a goalless draw, Croatia get relegated and Spain go through. And if it's a score draw, England go down and Spain go through. So it's just like anything is possible here. And it even depends if it's a score draw or not.
That's the beauty of the Nations League.
We've always said that.
We've always said that. Disregard what I said 2 minutes ago.
I think it is confusing, but I think what it does, like you say, it makes you play at teams that are around your kind of level. So it means that you don't have to play, friendlies against, someone like Japan who aren't as good as England, or, if you're a team like, an Andorra, you're getting practice against teams that are the same level as you. And if you go up into your Nations League pot, then you've got a better chance then of qualifying for a European tournament. I mean, you look at Scotland, their qualification for the Euros was helped by them doing well in their Nations League group, and it meant they go into the playoff that they won in the end.
Or was the qualification for the Euros just helped by the fact that the Euros had more teams in it than before?
Well, yeah, there's that too, isn't it? It's that thing of like, well, what's a perfect tournament kind of size? Because I quite like the World Cup format because I've grown up with it, but then you think, if they're going to let more and more teams into the World Cup, it's good for those nations, and it's more games, so you'd want to watch it, but then it's that age-old argument of, well, football's played too many games anyway.
Yeah.
And then is the quality going to suffer as well?
Well, this game definitely has a big game feel to it, and just as definitely worthy of note, this is our first Is This England podcast game, where Gareth Southgate is our England manager.
Yeah, definitely.
The great Sir Gareth Southgate, Knight of the Realm, King of England. Love Gareth Southgate so much. We'll talk about him endlessly, I'm sure. But prior to the game, he was being a bit smart, as he can be with the media in terms of trying to put a bit of pressure on Croatia. And I think it's more from the perspective of, I really want these guys to beat Croatia because I don't know when we'll play them again. And if we go to that tournament with this monkey on our back of Croatia beating us again, probably not even knowing that we'd play Croatia in the first game of that tournament, but the Euro 2020. then I think he would have just felt like it's always going to play on the back of the mind. And if we were to play Croatia later in that tournament, if they were to come through that way, then it would be again, you're starting on the back foot. So a real must-win game in his mind, I'm sure.
I think so as well. And the way he used this, I thought was really interesting. So one of the Croatia players had said that they were favourites despite the fact that they're playing away. So Southgate kind of used and changed this. So he said, whenever people speak, you give the opposition the opportunity to use those words as they see fit. There were some comments from Sweden in the summer that were definitely used to our advantage. So one of the Sweden players from the 90s was saying, "Oh, again, England are arrogant. We've got to use this, and we were the ones that were going to go through." So that was mentioned by Southgate before the Sweden game. Of look, it's not one of their current players, but they're still talking about this basically. So yeah, so that he's trying to use it back on Croatia because it was a big thing at the time. Like we say, they'd said, "Oh, England. You just think they're going to walk through." Because they're favourites and whatnot, and now you change it around. You go, I think it's quite a good idea, really.
Yeah, well, another thing that he said was, we want to be involved in those games that matter all the time, and if we're knocking on the door and picking up those experiences, then it can only be good for us. Absolutely true. Southgate's always been exceptional with the media, I think. Doesn't give too much away, doesn't get drawn into silly games, and speaks honestly and truthfully as well about issues. He doesn't hide away. He doesn't cover up for lack of substance with silly management speak or speak like a politician. He just answers questions honestly, and I think that is a little bit unsettling for some of the media.
I think so, yeah. I think it's unsettling for some people as well because they don't see him as this big flash person. I think they've got ideas about, oh, he's boring, he doesn't know what he's talking about, he's just a yes man, and I don't think he's that at all. I think he very much knows what he wants to say and he'll make a point.
He looks boring.
Oh yeah,
he does look boring. But every couple of years when it's tournament time, everyone gets on the Southgate fashion train anyway.
Well, I was going to say basically his big personality by 2018 was he had a waistcoat. Like there was nothing else about him apart from he'd obviously had Euro '96 where he'd missed the penalty. But that was kind of it. Was just who is this person? Because I think because he came from the under-21 setup when Allardyce left. It was just seen as, okay, they've just got another person on the conveyor belt. It'll happen for a while. And he didn't even want the job permanently, if you remember.
It's so crazy. Yeah, he definitely, that was the narrative at the time was that Southgate doesn't want the job. And he's obviously just grown and grown and grown into it. And I am dreading the day when he does leave. I think he said after the Italy final that these tournaments take a huge emotional toll on you, and there's only so many you can do. And I understand that. And the deeper we get into them, the more they hurt to lose. But if we win one, I mean, he could say, that's it, that's me done, I want to go out on a high. I'm not sure if he's made from club management either. That would be interesting. But he's just done so well with this specific job and this specific role that I really do wish that he stays in it for as long as he possibly can. And even if we have a couple of subpar tournaments, I'd like to think that I'd still keep Southgate in a job because he's overachieved so far.
I think so. I think the difference is now where you see where this England team is. I mean, we're going to get to the lineups in a minute, but even the team that he puts out here compared to the one that was around the Euros that kind of evolved, it's a very different side, and you've got better players coming in now. So when you have a Mount, a Grealish, a Foden, those are guys that, they're going to be around for the next 10 years or so. So you want to get the best out of them. The problem is, do you just try and fit them all on the pitch at the same time? Or do you pick a couple where you go, well, for this game, you're my man, like using Jack Grealish sparingly like he did at the Euros? I thought he used him really well, actually, because when he came on, the whole stadium went up, and the flatness of those England second half performances throughout tournaments kind of stopped, because when he comes on, it's just like, right, something's happening now. The crowd get up, the players get up.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. He almost has too much talent in that area, and you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So, but let's get into the lineups now for England versus Croatia, Nations League group stage, final game, November the 18th, 2018. Nick, do you want to read the England lineup?
Yep, so it's the ever-present Jordan Pickford in goal, Kyle Walker playing right back, John Stones and Gomez in the centre with Ben Chilwell on the left. A midfield of Dyer, Delph and Barkley with Sterling, Kane and Rashford up top.
Yeah, on the bench, Butland, McCarthy, Alexander-Arnold, Dunk, Keane, Shaw, Winks, Loftus-Cheek, Ali, Lingard, Sancho, and Wilson. Some surprises in there. And also it's a 4-3-3, which is different formation to what got us so far in the World Cup. My first reaction to seeing that team is that midfield is strange.
Very, very odd, isn't it?
So it's Eric Dyer, Fabian Delph, and Ross Barkley. Kind of all of them forgotten men, really. And I know Delph's. I don't even know if he's still playing football now.
He's at Everton. I don't think he's getting. He's not. I think he's just started getting back into the team as we're recording. But I don't think he's been. He's not had a great time at Everton really, because he was at City and then he just wasn't playing once they kind of got better players around.
Yeah, it's a midfield free of absolute forgotten men. I mean, it does show just how much development has happened and how forward-thinking Gareth Southgate is. That Rice and Phillips, who would go on to start in the tournament and play all of the games there in that midfield role as a 2, nowhere to be seen. Rice made his debut a year later, and Phillips made his debut a year later than that in 2020. So Phillips actually made his debut after Euro 2020 should have started. What do you think of that midfield? Is it just one of circumstance? I imagine there's a few injuries looking by the bench. There's only really Loftus-Cheek, Dele Alli, Jesse Lingard that could really step in.
I think so, but there was that lack of quality in the midfield. I mean, you had Jordan Henderson who played at the World Cup, but and as good as Jordan Henderson is with his certain qualities, I'm not sure it helps at tournament football when you need to keep the ball, and he's constantly looking for that pass on, like just looking up and looking for the pass. The problem is, I remember in that Croatia game in the semi-final, and you were just screaming out for someone to keep the ball, which is again a constant problem with England at tournaments, is that they just give the ball back to the opposition. They tire themselves out by chasing it, and you're kind of looking at one of the worst teams along with Spain to go chasing the ball after. And Rakitic, Modric, Kovacic, Brozovic, they're just going to keep it all day for fun.
Yeah, up front, Sterling, Kane and Rashford, which felt like that was, to me, it feels like looking back, that's the settled front three that we'd be taking to the Euros. Obviously, it didn't transpire that way, but you can't argue with that as a strong forward line.
No, and again, I think they're all still regulars for England now. You'd say Rashford's probably slightly dropped off. I mean, compared to this game when we get into it as well, how well he plays during the match, and Sterling's kind of become one of the main men for England. Where you look at the 2018 tournament, he was being praised for the work he was doing, how well he was playing, but he was missing chances. And you just think, is there someone else to kind of take his spot instead, who could still do the running, but would actually, well, maybe finish?
Jesse Lingard?
Yeah, maybe. I think at the time.
I was joking.
Well, I think it was because he'd been a similar player, and he was doing one of the shuttler roles a bit deeper. But I remember at the time people saying start Rashford. That was the big one, because they were both similar players who were going to run around Kane and make a bit of a difference.
And at the back, no Harry Maguire, I guess, is the big the big change. I was very excited. Joe Gomez obviously plays with John Stones in the middle. I was very excited for Joe Gomez, and I just felt that he was so good that somebody would just have to fall by the wayside, whether it be Stones or whether it be Maguire. Probably more likely Stones, because I think not long after this he started to fall off a little bit. But it hasn't really played out that way for Gomez, and obviously the injuries haven't helped. But this is a 4-3-3 lineup, and I remember there being a lot of talk of England moving away from that formation, the 3-1-4-2 in the World Cup, and moving towards this 4-3-3. I don't feel like it ever truly convinced though, and England kind of go back to a 5 in the Euros?
I think it was in the build-up, because I think there was a couple of games where England was seeming a bit ropey, and I remember there was one game back 5. I think it was maybe away in Belgium, or there was a really crap friendly, and you were looking at it just going, there's nothing but holding midfield, isn't there, and defenders. It was like one of those where we're going to play Trippier and Walker and just all this other stuff, and it was just so dull going, this isn't fun. But you had like players that were kind of playing up front, but they were playing behind Kane. I remember it was like Mount and maybe Grealish. So I think it's good to have a backup with this kind of thing. You can make tactical tweaks like he did in the final, where he did play the back 5.
Yeah.
But then you've got, well, if you do want to press and you do want to really kick on and you want to try and dominate the ball, doing that with a back 5, it's quite difficult, really.
Now, I asked you to read the England team out, but I'm going to ask you to read the Croatia team out, because I cannot pronounce a lot of these names.
I'll give it a good go. So you've got Kalinic in goal, and you've got Vishalko, Vida, Lovren, and Jedvad at left back. Brozovic, Modric, and Vlasic in centre midfield, and Perisic, Kramaric, and Rebic up front.
Very good, very good. That was great. The what's the right back's name? Vlasic.
Vlaško, I think it is.
Vlasic.
Again, I'm most likely butchering these as well, so
You did better than I would. Well done. You did better than I would. Yeah, that's that. I mean, there's a lot of itch. That's a very Croatia lineup. I know they're missing Rakitic, which would have been a big miss. I mean, probably at his peak around this time, maybe just past his peak. But
yeah, maybe slightly. I think there's Mandzukic who's not there, who probably play instead of Kramaric. Really underrated forward, I always thought. His hold-up play was always great. He had this weird thing where the team that he'd leave the year after, they won the Champions League for like 4 years in a row. It was something really strange.
Yeah. There's a couple of players with those sort of quirky stats behind them.
Yeah.
So it's game time, really. The teams come out to the Nations League. Excuse me, to the Nations League music. A bit of a take off of the Champions League music.
I like it. It's one of those things that you've got no idea what it is until you hear it and you go, oh, that's it. It's a bit like, like the Europa League music.
No. Can I shock you? No.
It's this weird kind of like beat in the background, and it kind of rises and rises. Honestly, if you listen to if you Google Europa League music, you're like, oh God, I remember this. It's just so many nights of watching it and just being like, oh.
Well, the Champions League really set the tone, and they're all just kind of trying to do that now, aren't they?
Definitely.
The next one. But
I don't mind the Nations League. Well, maybe we can put in a small clip of it here.
So it's at Wembley, actually, new Wembley, obviously not old Wembley. Looks like a good atmosphere. There's a few empty seats. Or did it kind of fill out as the game progressed? I mean, I remember watching the game and right at the start, I was thinking, God, there's a lot of empty seats there.
Yeah, I think it doesn't help the camera angle at Wembley. You've always got the corporate seats that are right by the dugouts as well, and it's just like at half time, there's just nobody coming out because they're
getting croissant or.
Yeah, they've got all that. There's a sign at the start of the game though that says "Behind the Three Lions," and it just looks like a sign from like an old Pro Evo game of just like goal, 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 or go shoot.
Yeah, play football with heart for victory, guys.
Yeah. It's very that, isn't it? I don't even know who it's supposed to be. I thought on the left hand side of it, I thought it was like Phil Jones and Harry Kane, but I was like, that can't be a Phil Jones on a flag, really.
The Croatia anthem, we're all kind of used to it by this point. Very recognisable, and their lineup is their lineup. They're wearing the same blue kit as what they beat us with in the semi-final. Gets to God Save the Queen, and it's your bog standard. Everyone's out of time, but there's a bit of heart to it. It's not the worst God Save the Queen I've ever heard. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I think they just do it fine, don't they? Again, it's one of those things where I just don't understand why they put either the volume you can absolutely hear as the camera's who's not supposed to pick up and it goes past all the players, or they just don't have it on at all. Yeah, I don't really understand it.
I mean, during the anthem, Kane does look. I noted that Kane looks very focused. I'm not sure whether it's sort of Nations League focused or just it's a revenge match for him.
Yeah.
At Wembley. After the national anthem, we hear a bit of Oasis from over the speaker system, a bit of a effing in the bushes from standing on the shoulders of giants, which is an ultimate crowd pumping song.
Yeah, it always seems to be used on like radio shows as well, doesn't it? It's like intro music.
Yeah.
So
Drive time.
Yeah, it's very talk sports bar. Here we go.
Yeah. Get your calls in. No, but seriously, do email or text.
Just if you're a loon, please do call up. We will be doing this all night.
England all in white. I remember watching the Lions watch prior to the Croatia semi-final, and I think it was Kieran Trippier they were interviewing, and he was saying, the interviewer had said to him, we're getting a lot of emails from people asking if you're going to wear all white for the final, white socks, white shorts and white top, because it's just so iconic, but I think they've been wearing blue shorts.
Okay.
And he was like, you know what, the boys do want to do it. They ended up doing it and they lost, obviously. Yeah. But I think since then, they just do it as a matter of course now. They were doing it for this game. And I'm pretty sure at the Euros just gone, it's white head to toe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I like it. I think it's just a nice classic looking look, isn't it?
It is. It's a classic look, head to toe in the classic white dress. And the game is underway. So... An early note from the commentator is that England's group features 3 of the top 9 nations in world football. I mean, we've touched on this earlier, but again, it just adds a sense of occasion. Early on, you've got Luka Modric keeping the ball in the first couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's just like a replay of just back at the World Cup, isn't it? And whenever you see Modric, I was going to say around this time, but he's been brilliant for over 10 years now. I remember always liking him at Tottenham and at Real Madrid. I mean, he's still doing it at Real Madrid as well now.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a nice couple of little turns. He's keeping the ball, and you're like, okay, but we can still settle into this. We just need
we're back here.
We just need to be calm. And then on 2 minutes, welcome to the podcast, Jordan Pickford.
So 2 minutes in, there's an underhit ball from Fabian Delph, which goes towards Jordan Pickford, and there's a Croatia player who goes to close him down. Problem is, Jordan Pickford's going for it, and he thinks, oh, great, I'll just slide in and pick this up. Problem is, it's come from his own player, and he can't do this. So he's sliding on the floor and goes, well, I can't pick it up. So he just chests it out of the goal, out of the penalty area. And then I think it's Rebic who follows it up, and it goes over, and you just think, just give us a minute. Like, this is too much.
That was traumatic to watch again. I completely forgot it happened. And it's just like, it really does have to be seen to be believed.
You must forget that it's a back pass. You just must do. You can't think, oh, this is the tactic I'll use for this.
Yeah, I mean, Pickford at this point, I'll change that actually. England at the point where we're talking now, his number 1 slot is pretty much guaranteed. Yeah. I'd be surprised if Southgate changes him. Doesn't seem like there's any bright young England keepers coming through. Maybe, well, there's not really, is there?
I think there's Ramsdale's doing all right at Arsenal. I'm a bit, I don't know, there's still something about him where I just don't feel like he maybe is up to that level. But I think, I don't know, Pickford's been going through a little bit of a difficult period, but for England, I can't really remember him ever like letting in something really awful or letting the team down.
Do you think that Southgate ever truly considered dropping him? Because he did try other keepers for games, whether that's just to get them experience, but there was a lot of call for him to be dropped in between the World Cup and the Euros.
There was, and then there's clearly going to be someone that we're forgetting here we think should be playing. But I remember there was a bit of talk for Henderson around the time. But again, he would just started playing for Man United a bit more then, and he was seen as being a bit of a best of everything. Like, his distribution was quite good. He thought he was quite good in one-on-one situations as well. Reflexes were good, but
Nick Pope?
Yeah, Nick Pope is probably the most complete keeper, you'd probably say, out of all of them. I mean, he's always amazing, like close range saves. I don't think his distribution's bad at all. Like, well, he gets a lot of practice putting it forward very quickly anyway, doesn't he? So
yeah.
But I guess he's like more waiting. He's got people to aim for instead of, I need to hit this person on the move.
Yeah, and Pickford's clearly Southgate's man. So England get away with it there. The crazy chest control, it's a miss from Rebic, and England just need to calm down there. Kyle Walker does a nice little run on 3 minutes just to try and get a bit of momentum into the team. Kyle Walker, the infatigable Kyle Walker. I mean, I know it's only 3 minutes into this game, but yeah, he's got such a crazy engine, and he's such an asset for England at right back. I change my mind on England's right back situation all the time, but he was so good in Euro 2020 and obviously the World Cup as well, Kyle Walker, where he was playing as a centre back, wasn't he, on the right hand side of a middle three?
Yeah, so that's what's quite interesting. Again, you look at a change from Southgate. I mean, I can never remember Walker playing as a centre half really, but the idea of him being in that side when Trippier's going forward at the World Cup, his pace would always get England out of situations, and he's got this ridiculous ability kind of to play a couple of positions at one time. You look at him at one time, he's running down the right hand channel. You look at others and he's kind of shepherding inside the pitch, or he's tucking in as another centre half. It's kind of like you're playing with 12 players at times.
Yeah, at 5 minutes in, it's worth noting at this point that England are already so much better than any of the other England teams we've seen.
Yeah,
on the ball by this stage. Just the passing, it doesn't seem rushed. It doesn't seem like they're just waiting to be tackled. It seems like we are taking control of this game, but not by being all out aggressive. We're just keeping the ball, and that's obviously a big feature of this England team.
and it's probably more a bit about, it's almost like the way they've chosen a way to do it, even with the players that you'd say are probably a little bit more limited. I don't think Eric Dyer's ever been brilliant on the ball, especially if he's playing in midfield, and it doesn't even feel at times that he's just sat there. Same with Fabian Delph. Barkley, you say, has probably got a bit more about him in terms of technical ability, but
Yeah, you'd hope that Barkley out of those three in midfield would be doing a bit more of the attacking side of things and taking that initiative. Early on, England as well do see that initiative being, carried by Sterling and Rashford. There's a few runs. Sterling nearly makes a chance on about 7 or 8 minutes, but he can't find that pass again. Linking back to what you were saying earlier about a lot of concerns over his end product. On 9 minutes, it took until around 9 minutes, and we've seen an example of bad playing out from the back with the nearly disaster goal for Croatia. But I just noticed that just the simple passing from, taking a really tight angle and making a simple but accurate pass between Walker and Pickford. And that element will always shock me and scare me when I'm watching it, because I'm like, this is going to go so bad.
yeah.
But at the same time, Nick, how big an element do you see playing out from the back as being to England's sort of character at the moment? Because I don't think any really of the big leaps that we've made forward since 2018 happen without it. A lot of key big moments have started with Pickford or a tight pass out from the back. So I don't know how do you feel?
I think it's definitely a risk you have to take these days, especially with England, where you don't think they're blessed with loads and loads of technical players or players that are able to play it out from the back. I mean, you look at John Stones is probably one of the better ones. Maguire for England does it, I think, really well too. But then you've got, well, how much are you willing to trust these people to do it? It's a bit like we were saying about Pope or Pickford. I'd probably trust Pickford's feet more than Pope's in tight areas, but are you going to take that risk of a keeper who's kind of 6 out of 10 with his feet, just so you haven't got to worry about it all kind of going awfully wrong, really?
Yeah, we are. It does feel sometimes like we're walking that tightrope, and it's not going to be long until the big game and Pickford cocks it up, and that's what he'll be remembered for. But he's done a lot of good for England, and I really do see that element of England's team, that playing it from the back with Pickford, has been so crucial to the success. Around 10 minutes in, England actually get a chance. Nick, you able to sort of run us through this chance?
Yeah, so it's Gomez with the ball into Harry Kane on the halfway line. He turns his marker really, really well and plays the ball straight through the middle to Sterling, who's through on goal. Carries the ball really well and is one-on-one with the keeper, but kind of dawdles on the finish, and it's saved for a corner.
Yeah, this was before Kane decided he wanted to be Pirlo and play in the middle. But it's a really nice pass from Kane. Bad from Sterling. We've touched a couple of times on his lack of potency in front of goal. But just to bring up a point you made earlier about the 2018 World Cup, I was adamant that he was our best player in that whole tournament, despite his lack of end product. Every game he was so good, and obviously we see at the Euro 2020 just how good he can be. England get a corner, so we're in love train mode, really. It's a really, really, really good chance. So the corner comes in. John Stones leaps like a salmon, heads it down towards the far post. Kane's unmarked. He's about 6 yards out from goal, and it's a clear tap in, but he just doesn't get to it, and it just. So close. It should have been a goal. And yeah, great corner play from England though. They've made 2 good chances already now.
Yeah, definitely. Stone's heading down to Kane, and you just think it's going to go in. You've seen that situation so many times. It's not too dissimilar to the Tunisia goal he scores at the end of that game as well in the World Cup, and it kind of falls onto his foot, but it doesn't come all the way. It kind of comes onto the top half of his foot over his toe, and it just blazes over. But England from corners were so good at that World Cup, and you just think, but kind of take that a bit more. And I don't think they maybe even scored a goal from a set piece at the last Euros.
No. Maybe it was just a bit of a fluke.
Yeah, maybe one. I think Maguire maybe got one, but it was from like a deep free kick from memory.
It was that what was that game we won? Like 4-0 Ukraine.
Yeah.
As we approach the sort of 15-minute mark, we're seeing a little bit more of Marcus Rashford, who plays a big role in this game. A lot of speed, a lot of urgency, so direct. I just have to say though, it's a great front three, Rashford, Sterling and Kane, but Rashford's the one who's fell by the wayside in the years since. I really don't see him. I don't want to get too deep into it because we talk about Marcus Rashford's talent quite a lot, but off the podcast we talk about it quite a lot. I don't think he's the same player, and to me, there's a long way back for him to get into that starting 11 now. You've got players like Mount, Grealish, Foden, Saka, Sancho, all, I would say every one of those except for Sancho is ahead of him in the pecking order.
He is. I think he's better than. Well, I think he's better. I don't think he's in great form, and as managers would say, he's not in a good moment kind of currently. But you kind of watch him in this game, and as soon as he gets the ball, he's running at players. He's direct to them, and he's trying to hurt the team. Now you kind of look at him, and he kind of stops quite a lot. He receives the ball, and he kind of like squares up the defender and goes, "Well, I'm better than you. I'll try and go past you." But by the time he's done that, the momentum's lost, and I don't know, maybe he thinks he's lost a yard of pace because he's had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years through playing so much as well.
He is ridiculously quick in this game. And as I say, around 15 minutes in, we are starting to see him get involved in the game. Again, though, on the 15-minute mark, a really, really, really good chance for England. It's a, can you run us through the chance? Because it's quite a lot of action in a very short space of time.
Yeah, so Fabian Delph, of all people, with some nice footwork, makes space on the halfway line, plays the ball over the top for Sterling, again coming in from the right-hand side where he's been really, really dangerous so far. Kalinic, the keeper, races out of the area and wins the header, clattering into Sterling in the process. The ball falls to Harry Kane about 30 yards out from goal, hits it first time and kind of it bounces off one of the Croatian defenders and comes back for him. He's got a bit of a better angle this time, maybe less in front of him, but
they've got a few more bodies back by this point, haven't they? There's 4 bodies ahead of him. But I'm so surprised he didn't score again there. I mean, that first chance so Sterling goes into the keeper, it comes out, and Kane's having a shot on the half volley just outside the box with not much in front of him, and he hits it right at the player.
He's probably got more time there than he thinks as well. Because I know there's a player that's getting back on the line, but if he takes a touch there, you think he'll just lift it over him. And then the second chance that comes, he takes a bit longer with it. So actually, is that him correcting what he thinks is his mistake? Right, should have taken a touch, do it. And they've already got, I think, 2 players back on the line, one closing the ball down, and the keeper.
Yeah, so that's a triple chance, and we're looking at 15 minutes gone, and England are really controlling things. I know Croatia had a bit of not a fluky chance, but they nearly capitalised on an error. But England are looking by far the better team around 15 minutes in. John Stones, having a big impact on the corners. Kane looking dangerous, looking like he's got a goal in him. And Sterling, obviously a real threat, on Rashford as well. I think just before this, the commentator mentioned Kane had gone 5 England games without a goal.
Yeah, which is crazy, really. Especially if England have been playing, they won in Spain, and they got a couple of other results around that time too. And you just feel at some point they've got to be playing Andorra soon, so we can smash 5 past them, because it just seems he goes through those periods, isn't he? You can kind of see from the character he is, where he doesn't care if he's playing against worse teams. He is absolutely happy to fill his boots. It's a bit like Michael Owen, kind of that selfishness that helps the team.
Definitely. England get another corner a couple of minutes later. Again, Rashford and Sterling are absolutely torturing Croatia. Another decent chance that comes from a Pickford clearance on around 20 minutes. It's not so much a decent chance, it's just an insanely hard and long kick from Jordan Pickford that goes to Marcus Rashford, who's a never-ending creative outlet, it seems.
Yeah, so there's just there's a mega kick from Pickford up the pitch, and it kind of just falls to Rashford, and he's got 2 Croatia players with him. The ball kind of bobbles, and he gets past one, and he's about to pull the trigger, and I think it's Vlaško that just gets a foot in somehow and stops him. But he's just him leaving him up top as well to just let his pace kind of get England out of situations is a really useful factor they can use.
Yeah, you've even got Ross Barkley taking a shot a couple of minutes later. It was very speculative, I must say, that as he lined up to shoot it, the commentator was like, Ross Barkley, why not? As if everyone's going to have a shot, why not Ross Barkley? It just hits a man, it's not going to happen, Mike.
That lovely delivery from Tilsbury as well. Ross Barkley, why not?
Yeah.
I absolutely love some of his mannerisms and the way he speaks. I think we'll probably come to it later about some of the things he says.
Yeah, definitely, but not that was quite kind of wasteful. England aren't the long distance shooting team, and so far they've really been controlling it. Around 24 minutes, Fabian Delph wins the ball deep in the England half. Rashford comes central, fires the ball into the right hand channel for Sterling to 1-on-2. He then crosses it into Kane, but again Croatia's defence are there, and it's another corner.
Yeah, and it's a great pass from Rashford to find Sterling. And again, it's just knowing where Sterling's there, he's always going to cut in. It's a bit like when you look at Mo Salah and you know the run he's going to make, but it's so hard to stop because he's so quick, and usually the delivery is spot on. And at the minute with Delph, Barkley, Kane, they're all feeding him, and it's all coming up really. It's just they're missing that last bit of quality.
Yeah, and again, we make it a half-decent chance from the corner. It kind of falls out to Ben Chilwell at the edge of the box. He has a shot. It's parried away by the keeper, and as Croatia go to break, Ross Barkley takes yellow for the team.
Yeah.
Drags Luka Modric down. I made a note that it's obviously a tactic, isn't it? That, I know exactly that I can get a yellow card here and it prevents a breakaway, but another factor of this England team is that intelligence, where I think if this was Sven's England or somebody else's England team, they would have done that tackle. Barkley did it in our own half before the attack was a break. I think if it's a Keegan or a Sven team, they do it when Croatia are really approaching our half, therefore risking it potentially being a red or a really good chance from the free kick.
Or it'd be a really bad challenge. I always remember that one Rooney did for Man United, and I think there was a break from, I think they were playing West Ham, and they were breaking away, and Rooney was like, professional fouls, I've heard about these, and he just put his stud straight onto someone's thigh, and he was like, I was just breaking up the attack, and he got sent off for it. I think it was because he was just like, I've just got to bring this person down, not thinking actually which is the best way to do it.
Yeah, just a question at this point, really. What is England's key tactic here? Because they've had some success from longer balls, Pickford's clearances, the ball through to Sterling. Obviously, they're doing a lot of sort of possession football and just keeping it and passing it about. There's a good amount of pressing as well, and they're really good from set pieces. Is Southgate essentially creating a greatest hits of tactics, or is he? What do you see the tactic as being?
I think they know they've got pace up front at the minute, and it's kind of what you'd want England to be doing against a Croatia team who are really high up the pitch as well. I mean, that's been the big thing, because they want to keep things compact the way they play as well. When you've got Rashford and Sterling just so close, and you've got Kane who's quite, I don't know if he's underrated, but I don't think it's spoken about how good of a passer he is actually. And if he had a different forward in front of him at Tottenham, he could be playing like a number 10 almost. And you'd have like a Son or someone around him as well. But when you're the best number 10 and the best number 9 at your club, I guess you're like, well, you're going to do more for us scoring goals with that in your locker as well.
Yeah, around 30 minutes now, and we're starting to see a little bit more of Luka Modric, but still, he's missing Rakitic, isn't he, at this point? I mean, that midfield too may have caused a lot of damage against England's free.
I think so as well, and there's no Kovacic here either, which I think he's an absolutely solid player, but I don't think he's not at the level of Modric and Rakitic. And the problem is as well, they're not even able to get in and steal the ball. I mean, I don't think they're playing awfully at this point, because Modric is still in there and just kind of walking them through a lot of the game, and people like Brozovic are very experienced, but I just don't think they've not got the ability to take the ball off England again and then make England tired by making them chase it.
Yeah, so England do still have the control. We're seeing a little bit more of Croatia here. England do a little bit more of playing it around at the back, as we hear the refrain of Southgate, "You're the one," on a lonesome trumpet in the background. Makes me so sad to hear that song. But I'm ready for it to make me feel happy again. Yeah,
England played the ball out from the back, and it's kind of just in a passable fashion, and still feel like they're like a level or so down from the better sides who do that, like a Spain or someone.
I was thinking about that, and other than Spain, is there a national side, an international side that really is able to play it out from the back like that?
I think Italy have shown they were very good at it during the Euros, weren't they? I think when you just see them and you see the players around, like the centre halves, you look at Bonucci and Chiellini, you think, oh yeah, they're pretty decent with it, but during the Euros they were fantastic. And when you've got people like Barella and Jorginho to kind of give the ball to and make the space.
Yeah. Marcus Rashford again. I mean, by the 35-minute mark, he's made me go, ooh, about 5 times. He is absolutely lethal. What a player. All the talent in the world at his feet at this point, and he's so close to doing damage to Croatia.
Yeah, I think as well, what we were saying about that, he's kind of changed the way he moves as well and how he runs at players now, but the difference here is that he's panicking people. People straight away are worried about what he's going to do behind them and what he's going to kind of do when he's just running straight and so direct at them as well. But yeah, it's a bit different to see now.
Yeah, Croatia do have a shot around just before the 40-minute mark. Kramaric dances through a few challenges, passes it over to Perisic, but he shoots over before England are back to it, and it's a half decent chance really. Ends up being Ross Barkley.
Yeah, ball comes to Chilwell on the left, who crosses and the keeper flaps at it. Falls to Barkley, who hits the side net in, and he actually has quite a good game today. I think he plays really well. I saw that he was given the number 7 shirt beforehand, and it was a bit Ross Barkley with the number 7 for England seems a bit depressing and maybe a state of where the England midfield is at that point. But I thought he played really, really well in this game.
Yeah, well, you mentioned his chance there came from the keeper sort of flapping at the cross. I don't think that's unrelated to. England's front three are really not. They're not too shy about getting stuck in. Harry Kane is putting himself about. Sterling is always putting himself about. Rashford's just obviously a bit more on the lethal creative side, but it's surprising. I mean, you forget. I know Rooney's Rooney, but the Michael Owen years, he's not really putting himself about like that. He's nipping in and out, but even. Heskey and Rooney. I mean, Heskey can't really put himself about, and then I guess Rooney kind of.
What's your definition for putting himself about, though? I guess
lost causes, getting stuck in, not being afraid to leave a foot in with the keeper in the hope that the keeper might drop it. Just Sterling is a great example because he goes into players twice the size of him and just goes, you know what? If you foul me, I could win a foul. So
he's got no fear like that, has he?
No, exactly, and it's just something that I noticed, and it just shows that. Confidence, fitness, and willing, that eagerness to win. So that was a decent chance. And again, about 43 minutes, we see a decent chance potentially, but it falls to Eric Dyer.
Yeah, Eric Dyer in the penalty area, not from a set piece actually. So he's just kind of marauding up the pitch at this point. It feels just really weird to see him this far forward. He's like a big white albino slender man. Kind of when he's running up the pitch, he's just terrifying.
Can you please explain big albino slender man to me? Because I don't get the reference.
You know what slender man is?
No.
Oh, you have to do some Googling on that, I think. It's kind of this old fable about this a long person that would come and steal kids and stuff like that. You've definitely seen Slender Man before.
Oh dear. Okay, well I'll have a look at Slender Man a little bit later.
Let's see if this stays in.
It was a great ball from John Stones to make that chance.
Yeah.
And Barkley again, as we approach half time, he's sort of involved. A quick question for you, a bit of a bang, Nick, putting you on the spot here. Time swap. Who would you place from the 2005 England versus Argentina game into this lineup?
I'd maybe say Lampard, probably. I'd probably say Frank Lampard if you were putting him in that midfield 3.
Well, you could have anyone from across the squad, but you'd probably look at the midfield 3, wouldn't you, to replace?
I'd say so. I think the back four's settled enough, even though there's some good players in that. Well, in the 2 centre halves we covered in the Argentina game, the fullbacks are a bit. They were kind of like reserves really for England, weren't they? And then there's much better fullbacks here. But yeah, I'd say the midfield you're looking at.
Yeah, I would have gone for Gerrard.
That's classic, isn't it? I don't know. There was something about maybe the chaos of kind of Gerrard because he's so all encapsulating about he's got to try and do it himself, and which is one of his great qualities for Liverpool. He dragged them through so many games, but maybe there's a bit more discipline in terms of that with Lampard. He wouldn't be chasing things down from all over the pitch because the rest of the team are doing it for him. But if Gerrard's being pulled out of his space and his shape's all not going to be there, I think Lampard maybe had that drilled into him a little bit more through different managers.
Yeah, potentially. Just before half time, really on the stroke of half time, I thought this was a great chance for Croatia. I'm not sure what really happened. It kind of bounced. It was a long ball. It goes right up to Pickford's sort of 6-yard box, and it's just kind of missed by the Croatia player.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a missed kick by that point, isn't it? But it's kind of one of the few, since the Pickford era, it's the first real, got to think about that again, maybe. But with that midfield three of England, like Delph and Dyer are all filling in when one of the centre halves or the fullbacks go forward. So they're kind of all covering each other doing that. But are you kind of missing something at this point? Like we say, Harry Kane being so deep and playing in Sterling and Rashford is fantastic, but wouldn't it be better if someone else was doing that behind them? And Kane was also up there kind of doing something too. And is it a point of maybe moving Barkley a bit further higher up the pitch? Or
Yeah, potentially. Either way, the half-time whistle goes and it's 0-0. England, well, they've played really well, but they're not winning. I think Stones and Rashford in particular have looked really good. Any thoughts on that first half?
Yeah, just missed chances really for England, which was the problem. That's what you worry about in these kind of games, isn't it? Where England, and again, what is England? If they do play well, it's missing chances and being made to pay for it.
Well, absolutely. We'll waste no time and get into the second half. Yeah, so before we kick off into the second half, there's one sub for Croatia.
Yeah, Rebic comes off, and you're going to leave me to bring to say the Brekalo as well comes on,
please.
Yeah, Rebic comes off. He's an interesting player, Rebic. I always think he plays better for his nation than he does his club. I think he's at Milan at the minute, and he's done fine there from whatever I've seen, but much a better player for Croatia, I think.
Yeah, as we mentioned early on, there's a lot of implications for the different results of this game. The commentator says, if you think Brexit is complicated, the UEFA Nation League is complicated too. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Very much, of that period where, we voted for it, but it's a joke. It will never actually happen. That's like next year or something when it'll actually happen.
Again, that's what I was saying about all the news at the time is just constantly about this and will it happen, won't it happen? And it's just, oh God, to be taken back to this era is just so horrible, really.
Yeah.
But
well, England qualifying for the Nations League semi-final. Will it happen? Won't it happen? Let's crack on.
Well, you've got as it stands currently, Croatia are getting relegated, so really they need to start doing something a bit more if they don't want to kind of go down into the next pot. And I think they start this half quite comfortably.
Yeah, it does look as though the dominance that England had from say 15 to 40 minutes has faded a little, but before it fades too much, Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, what a bloody run by Marcus Rashford twice during this. So he just runs through an absolute load of players, gets it back to him, but he's just kind of somehow crowded out from it. And it's just absolutely fearless. I think he runs from his own half almost at this point.
He takes about 6 players, and then he's like, okay, I'm not going to be able to take on these other 4. So he just plays a normal safe pass, and then he's like, right, I'll have it back at you, and then tries to take on the other 4. Nothing much comes of it, but I think that's more a symptom of England playing quite safe at this moment. He's obviously given license to just run and run and run, but, if Barkley would maybe make a run to support or something a bit more creative from the midfield, he'd have a little bit more of a what would you call it, a diversion tactic from the other so he can run free.
We've almost got kind of like the role that some players play, which is kind of like a wall to bounce the ball off. Like you have someone like, I don't know, a Foden. At City, they've got players set up in certain positions that are there for, right, well, when you give it and go, I'll always be there and you can just play it off me, and we've beaten 2 men out of the situation, basically. And I think that's kind of what England are missing in this game a little bit. There's like a 1-2 played there, but again, I'm pretty sure it's back from Kane. So Kane is not in that area for a return ball from Rashford. So that's where you're like, you're a bit worried about, well, are they really going to break on us at this point? We've got that many players kind of back covering ourselves. Is it a bit overcautious?
Yeah, well, at 49 minutes, just as a pod klaxon, I'll spot a West Brom flag, and then
a Wolves flag. Obviously,
absolutely.
So that's. I think this is our one that we've done. This will be our 3rd recording with this, the second Wolves flag. Anyone else who hasn't heard the other ones, it's just I always think they're at every single England game, and you go anywhere in the world, there is always a Wolves flag. You go to the moon, there will be a Wolves flag on there already. So we've spotted one. I didn't spot it until quite a bit later, actually.
Yeah, again, Croatia are they're getting a little bit of a grip on the game. Around 50 minutes, they do craft a decent chance. Perisic makes a shot, but it's blocked and out for a corner. I was quite nervous watching this as Modric stepped up, but it was cleared by Eric Dyer, of course. England break with Rashford, and he gets it through to Sterling, who forces a save. I mean, it is a good game so far. It's a 0-0, so that's great to listen to if you're a podcast audience, isn't it? People talking about 50 minutes of 0-0, but both teams are giving it 100%. And England are getting a couple of set pieces here and there. The set piece delivery is not great in this game.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really poor, actually. I think it's kind of Ben Chilwell does a lot of it, but you'd say, again, not many great set piece takers in this England side. I think Trippier must have been the one that did it at the World Cup, and he's not in the side at the moment. So if you're looking at Chilwell, I mean, I don't think he takes them at club level particularly.
No. Another observation around this point is Harry Kane's working really hard but quiet, sort of similar to the classic Michael Owen game, if you like. So that's about 55 minutes in, but there's a big event on 57 minutes, Nick.
Yeah, Croatia score. Just
against of course they do.
Vlasic has made the cutting run, pulled back. Kramaric has a chance. He has Perisic in support. Still Andrej Kramaric. He's found the net, and Croatia have found a lead. Against the run of overall play. But with 12 minutes of the second half play, England find themselves having to come from behind.
Well, it's on that right-hand side. Rakelo just gets the ball into the box. When Kramaric gets it here, how much time has he got? 3-4 defenders round him. In the end, it takes a deflection. It has to. I think it's off Dyer. I think he flicks off the top of his thigh. It's a great ball into the box. Now England are playing catch-up. Close him down. They don't quite. Gets his shot away. He must just hit Dyer on the thigh. Goes high and wide over Pickford. And there it is. The little deflection. Pickford's now starting his dive. Now it's too late. Can't get anywhere near it.
Obviously, against the run of play at that point, they'd actually got into the half really well. So some England pressure comes to nothing, and then Croatia starts to move the ball forward at jog. Brekalo waits for a nice inside run from Vlasic, who isn't being trapped by any of the England three defensive midfielders that they're playing, so that they're doing their job there.
Yeah.
All the centre halves are in the area who are just watching the ball kind of go past them. It's been cut back to Kramaric, and it just seems to be forever that he's just twisting and turning up with this shot here. It's, again, very similar to playing you on the old pro, really. It's just cut back. Can't do anything about it.
It always gets referenced. See, it's more realistic a tactic than you gave me credit for. I thought this was really bad defending from England. That as we mentioned earlier, you put sort of pictures into our notes as visual guide, and there's 5 players in front of him, and he's just going cut back. Somebody just close him down or something, and he has the shot. It hits off Eric Dyer's leg and kind of floats into the top corner past Pickford, who's obviously at full stretch but can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and it's annoying as well. I mean, the one player that kind of goes in is John Stones, but everyone else is looking around him, and it happens a couple of times in the game actually where John Stones is the person who's jumping in to try and stop whatever the shot's going to be, but he's committing himself so much, and he just ends up on his arse, and they've got a clear shot at goal. It happens a couple of times, but this is the first one that really kind of, obviously hurts England.
Yeah, you'd imagine heads kind of went down a little bit after this goal. It's a killer one because England have controlled the game. They haven't made excellent chances, but they've controlled the game and should probably be 1-0 up. There's a few chances early on for Kane, but as it stands, Croatia going through to the semi-finals, and England are going to be relegated.
Again, thrilling.
Yeah.
England could get relegated from something. Just who'd have thought they'd seen the day? England win a corner and Croatia get it away. Stones seems to be so keen to just be involved in this kind of like these corners and setups. He almost seems to like put other players off because he's just chucking himself at the ball so much.
Yeah, he's effective though. He's had a lot of sort of those moments for England from corners in like qualifying games and what have you. And even in this game, he's had a few sort of nice moments from corners. But the stakes are higher now. We're 60 minutes in, pretty much, and England are 1-0 down. We've been told countless times by the commentators that there are stakes to this game because we've got to sell the UEFA Nations League as a competition that has stakes. But anyway, The stakes are at the moment, England are going out, they're being relegated, one of the first international teams to ever be relegated, and Croatia are just getting another chance after it's starting to look quite bad at this point.
Yeah, they're looking quite ragged at this point, aren't they, England? So they're pushing high up. Joe Gomez loses a header out to Perisic, he loses out to I think it's Kramaric, sorry, and Perisic runs down the left into the area. From where he picks the ball up to where he actually ends up is just crazy, because you think, well, someone's got to get back. I mean, you see where Stones, his starting position is, and then by the time he actually comes to the shot, Stones is just on the penalty area spot.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, how's that happened?
I think heads have gone. I think they have gone, "Oh, you know what, we thought that we weren't the real
Same
England,
old England.
And now we are, and this is it. This isn't even a big game in the sense, this is just the bloody Nations League, and we've bottled it because of the pressure. So Gareth starts looking to the bench. We see Dele Alli taking instructions. Surely the ultimate forgotten man of the 2018 World Cup. I mean, Ashley Young obviously wouldn't get a look in for England now, but he was a lot older. Dele Alli is such a crazy story, really, because he did seem like he had the entire world at his feet. That World Cup, he didn't set it alight, but he'd been doing so well for Spurs.
Yeah, and I think it's just that the idea of an exciting young English player kind of comes on. And I mean, when he was at his best at Spurs, he was almost playing up front at times. He was pretty much right next to Harry Kane, and I think he got 20 Premier League goals one year as well. And then you look at kind of what's happened to him now, where he's made a kind of a strange permanent move to Everton, but a lot of it's dependent on how many games he plays for Everton, whether they actually get the money at Spurs or not. So I want him to do well. I think he's always seemed like quite a nice guy, and
yeah, he can't be that old, can he? He's probably got to be only about 24, 25 or something.
Maybe he's 25 by now, I think, maybe.
He's 25 now as we record this. But he comes on for Ross Barkley on 63 minutes. So leaving that midfield as Dyer, Delph and Dele Alli.
Yeah, I don't really get this, though. So why is he leaving Delph and Dyer on when Barkley is a player that has at least been creating something? I mean, he slowed down a bit because he immediately goes red-faced. Usually Ross Barkley whenever he's playing quite a bit, but then it just seems odd that they're the players that they're leaving on to kind of be the secure ones, where we might play Barkley a bit going deeper. Then
I think that it's more a like for like substitution, because Southgate has just seen that chance for Croatia and thinking this can go 2-0. Let's just play it safe a little bit, and maybe we can attack them in the final stages of the game. Probably telling Dele to push up and get up there with Harry Kane.
Yeah, I think at one point as well, when the ball comes over up the top, and maybe it's a little bit later, but he's pretty much deciding to play further forward now. So yeah, hope it's one of those things with him.
Yeah, at 64 minutes, I noticed that there was a lot of whistling from the crowd as England did that. The passing that I was praising them for earlier, that simple sort of, almost Spain-light passing, and it doesn't look like they're going to be getting an equaliser anytime soon.
It's such a fine line, isn't it, with that kind of stuff, and it all depends on perception of where you are in a game. If you're playing the ball out from the back and you're taking your time with it and you're just trying to look for that opening through the midfield, if you're 1-0 up, that's seen as being great. If you're 1-0 down, then it's just seen as, get on with it, get it forward. And we all kind of go back 20 years of just like, well, just get it forward, get it on someone's head, do something with it. But there are areas where you think, is it kind of required? Is it responsibility to actually take the ball and run with it forward? I mean, John Stones, I think, does that quite well, where he just goes, well, I'm going to have a run with it then.
Yeah, the commentator mentions the infamous Wally with a brolly as well at 65 minutes, coupled with the nice line of nothing much has rained on Southgate's parade in recent years, but Croatia certainly have.
Which is lovely from Telsley, isn't it?
Yeah, the old enemy there coming back to haunt us. Croatia get their first yellow... Well, is it their first yellow card? It's a yellow card for a foul on Rashford.
Yeah, someone's finally kind of booked for taking him out repeatedly. I think it's Jedovic and Brozovic are both booked. I think Brozovic just gets booked for like
dissent.
Yeah, just slamming the ball down. It's first one for Croatia. Well, it's coupled really, isn't it?
And it's still coming from that Rashford threat. I mean, Sterling's gone really quiet, and Kane has been quiet pretty much since the first 10 minutes as well.
I think it's just so difficult for England to even get the ball to them at this point. And like I say, they've really, really retreated into themselves. I mean, the free kick doesn't come to anything either. It's a poor free kick from Chilwell, and Walker has a shot from outside the area, but it's not doing anything.
Yeah, I've got to say, England at the 70-odd, well, not 70-odd, just before the 70-minute mark, the boring me. I'm getting that feeling of when you watch England, and we've done a lot of that recently.
Yeah.
And you're like, my God, this team. Why don't you do something with the ball? It's not happening. Dele Alli's been on not that long, but it looks like he's even on the pitch. Croatia seem like they're ready to break at any time, and they nearly do.
And I think as well, they've obviously got the goal on the break, so they're happy now to just sit. So that space for Rashford and Sterling isn't there anymore. So they're sitting back, going, well, actually, this suits us perfectly, because when Modric does nip in to take the ball, which he kind of does a couple of times throughout this period, it's just like, well, this is exactly what they want, is it? And when Croatia do have the ball, England are tiring themselves out trying to get it back.
Yeah, you noticed that. Well, we watched this game on YouTube. It was a Relions.
Relions, yeah.
So that's official England content. Well, the comment channel is always worth having a look at.
I don't understand why this is there, though. So this is from kind of the lockdown period, and the FA, I think it was, or the England channel, decided to put a couple of games up there that were people could kind of watch along and comment on. And I just don't get the point of, like, A, having a chat function, and B, leaving it up now for the comments. Because it's just like, where's everybody from? Gordon Banks is 100 times better than Joe Hart.
Yeah, good. Like, who's talking about that? Gordon Banks is 100 times better than Joe Hart. Disappointment of a country was one I liked from the little screen grab that you shared.
It's just so strange. It's like, where's everyone from? Like 2 minutes later, Canada.
Oh, I see. I didn't see the where's anyone.
Where are you people from? Yeah.
I'm a Chelsea fan.
Disappointment of a country.
Yeah.
I just think, what's the point of this? And then just a Southgate and a Hart.
Yeah, well, I agree with that one. That's probably the most sensible thing they've said all day.
You do get people when you kind of see like comment sections on like videos that you're watching of streams of stuff or whatever, and you do kind of see like they know each other. Like people kind of get together, and it's like, oh, Harry Dog's here, he's in the room, and things like that. And I just think this is like a little community that you don't really speak about.
I know it's going to sound rich coming from me as we do an England podcast, but nerds. About 71 minutes in, England are doing the classic now. Well, the classic sort of under Southgate if they can't do anything. About 100 passes, they can't get anywhere. Croatia make an interception. Within 3 passes, they've made another decent chance for themselves. And nothing comes of that. So England, again, raid the subs bench.
Yeah, so it's Sancho and Lingard on for Delph and Rashford. Rashford coming off seems a strange one, doesn't it? After we've been praising him so much. I understand it's on for Sancho and maybe he wants to play there and Sterling's more comfortable playing on the left, but yeah, I didn't really get that.
A lot of positivity from the crowd when Sancho's name is announced. I think he just made his debut, and it's a big cheer when his name comes up. I think it's very rare that there's any element of mystery around footballers now. But maybe at this point, Sancho, because he was playing in Germany, there was that element of mystery, and it's like, right, come on, let's make sure this guy is going to be, let's give him all of our support, because people don't really watch the whole Bundesliga over here, and we just heard about how he's doing well, and he got a call up, and I was just surprised to see Rashford taken off. Yeah,
I think with Sancho as well, and the players that do play abroad and not in the Premier League, all you've kind of got these days, because everything's kind of put together with like stats. So you're like, oh, he's got X amount of goals and assists over the last year, and you can see compilations of him on YouTube, and you make assessments of, oh, well, I think he's a good player, even though you've never actually watched him.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's, I don't know, personally, I think it's a thing I've tried to get out of the habit of going, oh yeah, they're a really good player, and it's just like, am I just thinking of old Football Manager, or like a game, or just stats I've read? It's like, I need to watch them before I kind of make these big things. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen him play much, but I haven't seen much of Sancho apart from a couple of Champions League games, but people just talked about
a lot of
so much.
Skill compilations he'd show up on when he was in his early stages at Dortmund.
Yeah,
like insane tricks
with just like awful music behind it as well. And there's always that, I don't know, it's something that started happening now on more social media accounts when, if they like show a goal and there's almost like it blurs a bit when the ball comes over or they hit it.
Yeah.
I was watching something earlier and it was like a cross into the area and like a hit from just on the edge, and they did that thing where like the camera blurs. I don't really know what that is.
I don't really know. I think that it's a case of we have the footage. If we were to put it up completely raw, then that's copyright infringement.
No, this is like it's like official channels that do this. Sorry. I think like even on like, I don't know, like the Man United app or something like that, or on their social media channels. You say, oh, it's a goal of the day, and even if it's from like the 90s or something, it's like, oh, well, if it's from long range, there's this weird blur they put on it, which don't know if it makes it seem like it's going quicker.
Oh,
I
God
don't know.
knows.
It's just horrible, really.
But speaking of going quicker, 11 minutes after the first sub, which we kind of agreed was slightly cautious, England have a lot of attacking players on there. So Sancho, Lingard, Kane, Sterling, Dele Alli. So we are going for it with around 17, 18 minutes to go. Not much happens though straight away. It's not a quick sort of turnaround. Poor play from England on 74 minutes. The try for a crossing where it's that generic floated ball in. It's Kyle Walker guilty this time of doing the classic Rio Ferdinand ball.
As we've christened it here now.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye out for those as we go forward, and I'll hate every single one of them.
And we also get a really poor piece of play from Dyer here as well, and Croatia should be 2-0 up by this point. So Dyer's robbed by Brozovic and sets Kramaric away, cuts back inside to Brozovic, who dummies a shot. Stones again sliding in really hard and getting nowhere near it, and knocks it back to Vlasic, who doesn't take it first time and whose shot's blocked by Pickford's hands. And yeah, how they've missed this. I'd be so annoyed if I was Croatian just seeing these chances.
Yeah, this chance in particular should have been 2-0. I don't think England have really had a chance this half, and Croatia seem to be making them at will on the break. And it's strange when England aren't really pushing forward that much, yet they keep getting caught on the break. So, it's like surely getting caught on the break should be an after effect of really pushing for the attack, but they've just got a lot of players up and not much is happening with it.
And this is the point where I first noticed the Wolves flag, because it's behind that England goal they're going for. So you're just not seeing it.
That's true. Just in the run up to that chance, it's just after the chance. Tilsey says, well, he christens Eric Dyer as the head of security. He's going, well, bad play from Dyer, who's back there, and he should be England's head of security. I don't think I would want him as head of security. He seems like a bit of a loose cannon to me. Somebody who's a bit maybe got a screw loose. I always said Eric Dyer seems like the type of man where you'd go around his house and he'd be like, I like knives. Do you want to have a look at my knives? And you'd go, what? He'd be like, yeah, look. And he'd just open up this box and there'd be like loads of knives. He'd go, these are my knives. What do you think of them? And he's like, I don't like to kill anything with them. I just like to have them. What do you think?
I'm just really into them. That's the thing. Yeah, I've got these books about them as well. Yeah. Don't look at that knife.
Yeah. Don't look at that knife. That's my favourite knife. You're not having it.
Give you all like the specs of it and everything.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But Cox up there. I do love Eric Dyer, by the way. I just signed him on my my FIFA career. But anywho,
yeah,
I'm fighting relegation with that team. So maybe an indication to his quality.
Yeah. Again, head of security is such a weird term. I wouldn't trust him to guard an empty room. Really.
Yeah.
It's a bit odd. But again, in this game, he's kind of like at times he was kind of the one going forward on his own. It just felt so strange.
He's a bit of a forgotten man there, isn't he? He can't get anywhere near a squad for love nor money.
Yeah, I think he plays in like a back three at Spurs at the minute, and I guess Conte kind of likes the idea of, well, maybe if we need to chase the game, we can switch to a back four, and he pushes into midfield, and everyone goes up. Maybe he's quite a diverse player. I mean, when he was again a player of don't really know much about Eric Dyer until he came to the Premier League, because he'd been playing in Portugal for years too.
Yeah, well, England try a chance on the 76th minute. Sancho slips a nice ball through to Dele. It's close to making a chance there, but not really. Goes out for a corner. Sancho takes the corner, hits the first man. with a set piece team from the World Cup, we should really know what to do. It looks to me, Nick, like we're all out of ideas on 77 minutes.
Yeah, especially from set pieces and dead ball situations. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, does it?
See what Liverpool's long throw coach has been teaching Joe Gomez. Not bad. In towards Stones. A chance for Kane. It's in. Lingard. England on terms. About 15 minutes left to play. England need one more if they're to progress in the Nations League.
Well, all the good football you can play, a good throw can be dangerous, and Harry Kane finds himself just flicking at the ball, and how do you like him? Lingard just with a little tap in after the little flick from Kane, looks like it might go over the line, he makes sure, 1-1.
Well, Liverpool have been ridiculed in some quarters for employing the part-time services of a coach with specific responsibilities to teach the players how to throw the ball long. And Joe Gomez of Liverpool has just delivered a precious long throw for England. Croatia, Jurgen.
So there's a goal for England that comes from absolutely nowhere.
Love this. Joe Gomez with the old Rory Delap. Really long throw in. Lands on the head of John Stones. Everyone's fighting for it. Dele has a swing, but it comes to Harry Kane, unmarked near the far post from where the throw-in was taken. Stabs at a shot. It just kind of creeps through on the players, and Lingard, open goal from half a yard out.
Yeah, it's so David Nugent, isn't it? Just on the absolute goal line, stealing, because that would be Kane's goal as well. Because I think it bobbles and it's clearly going in, and Lingard just thinks I'll have a bit of that.
Oh, you've got it. If you're Lingard, you have to finish it though, because I did watch and I thought, well, we know what England are like. I was like, could he have cocked this up? And he did have to make sure of it. I definitely thought that. Stones has been great. He has a big role to play in there. Kane's given it a bit. It's like when we watch the San Marino highlights, England have just. It's 1-1 with 13 minutes to go, but they're doing it right this time. They're picking up the ball, running back to the halfway line. Come on, lads! Right, game on. Still need to score to progress. The commentator says.
Yeah, and it just again this point it just felt like England weren't doing anything with the ball. It just felt like the same old stuff, but it comes from nowhere, and all of a sudden they're making chances again.
Well, it comes from a long throwing, and we know who to thank for that, don't we?
Well, apparently we've got to thank Jurgen Klopp for this. Like, I didn't really get this bit from Tilsley. I think he mentions about Liverpool have just hired a throwing coach at the time, and he says, "Oh, they've been quite derided for this." I don't remember. I remember it happening, but I don't remember it being, "Oh, they've got a throwing coach. What idiots!"
I don't understand anything like that. How can you be snooty if you have the ability to do those long throws and make them kind of work regularly for you and not just be found out? I think the reason it's used less is because if you keep doing them, they're probably a bit easier to channel if you're an opposition team. But
yeah.
He goes, thank you very much, Jurgen. And it's like, oh, come on. But I guess Liverpool were flying high at the time, and England wanted to kind of model themselves on that.
And in fairness, they do for a lot of like the way they play at times with the high fullbacks and kind of just shuttlers in midfield, which is kind of what this is as well with this England side.
Yeah, Croatia do make a sub. This has got to be a spelling mistake. Vlasic off for
Rog. It's Rog, yeah. I think he's playing at Napoli maybe at the time, but I think it's more of a defensive player.
Is that the same Rog who used to be a bounty hunter?
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So England...
So England is still going down at this point, though. This is what's quite fun about it all. So that goal's just saved Croatia from going down themselves. But in reality, England are still in the bad position.
Well, it nearly gets much worse. Only a couple of minutes after the goal, it takes a goal line clearance from Mr. Jesse Lingard, right?
Yeah, So there's a corner comes in and Vida kind of greets it. Vida kind of instantly recognisable about that really short side haircut and just a long ponytail. This is kind of like one of the few occasions like his haircut looks vaguely acceptable. I remember in the World Cup just hating how it looked and just thinking, oh, we can't lose to these.
You just want to get the scissors, don't you, and give a little chop.
Yeah, it's not. But so a header from him, and it's kind of half Lingard, half Pickford, who kind of just managed to get it kicked away again.
Yeah, the crowd go absolutely wild. It's that cliche of something like that being as good as a goal. They are ready.
Yeah.
It's shades of England breaking after the disallowed Argentina goal in the game, which we covered previously. It's like, come on, we're in it now. England definitely won it, but Croatia have just showed how dangerous they are. Lingard's energy. I mean, Lingard scored a goal and cleared and made a goal line save. I just think in general his energy against Barkley is a bit more sort of stodgy. I don't know if that's harsh on Barkley, but I think Lingard's energy is much needed in this game.
Yeah, and I think it helps when he's one of those players I think I was thinking about who kind of like you bounce the ball off, so he just takes it briefly, 1 touch, 2 touch out of his feet and back to someone or finds a pass from somewhere else. He's a good carrier of the ball as well, Lingard.
Yeah. Well, we'll do this podcast a lot more sort of going forward, but I'm curious as to whether we'll ever really get a chance to talk about Jesse Lingard in any higher terms really than what we do now. I mean, he's just come on and scored. He's fresh off a World Cup where I think he started every game for England.
Yeah, every meaningful game. Maybe the Belgium game he may have missed out on, but that's probably it.
Well, yeah, I think that was a wholesale change for that game as well. So he was a starter. He's a man who's always going to get judged by his personality rather than his footballing career. But I think he can look back and have an England career to be proud of, especially with that World Cup run.
Well, it was quite a surprise when he did start because he was kind of playing in like a midfield three with Henderson and Dele Alli, and I just thought I've never really seen him play there at the club football. He's more playing on one of the wider positions or as a number 10, but he absolutely did that kind of that shuttling role really really well.
Yeah, I always just think with Lingard, he can always show his kids when he grows up him scoring an absolute worldie at a World Cup.
Yeah.
Against Panama, it was a beautiful goal.
Yeah.
So you got Kyle Walker really still on the pitch, doing two jobs again.
Just again, at this point, he's kind of staying back in that centre half position, just tucking in to make sure that they're, if they do break, he's the quick one that's back there. And then the next time you see him, he's wide right again, and he's just doing so many jobs. I just think he's quite underrated, Kyle Walker, especially for the England career he's had, and he's been there for all of England's big moments over the last couple of years.
You get head of security Eric Dyer missing a tackle well out of position. Croatia break again, but it's actually Raheem Sterling who comes back to intercept. There's a lot of energy in this game at the moment. England need a goal. Surely Croatia do too. On 85 minutes, somebody gets a goal. Who is it?
Chilwell in towards Dyer. Oh, it's in! It's Harry Kane! His 20th international goal reconnects England's most vital supply line. His first for his country since the World Cup. The Golden Boot is firing again. And just in time. 6 minutes to go.
Well, we're talking about the set pieces and the quality from wide areas. This one's got quality on it, but Ian Wright will love this goal. Goal scorers stand in front of the goal. You've got half a chance of scoring. He stays in the danger area, stretches that hamstring, gets his toe on it, 2-1.
His first in 8 games in an England shirt, his longest wait yet for an international goal is over. He's only 33 behind Wayne Rooney.
It's England.
Oh!
So after we've derided the set pieces all game, it's free kick to England. Chilwell with a much better ball in, and it's kind of missed by a couple of people, including the head of security himself, Eric Dyer. Yeah. And so that's another one he's missed. And yeah, it comes to Kane, and he's just kind of stretches his foot out. It's quite a nice finish actually, because it comes at him in a weird body position that he's in.
Yeah, well, the picture you've taken, it looks like he's already celebrating the goal. He's got both arms up. He just looked like he fell over. But that is what you need from a top level striker, isn't it?
It looks like he's doing one of those trust exercises, and no one's catching him.
You wouldn't trust those Croatian defence, but yeah. The commentator's going absolutely crazy here. It's in. The Golden Boot is firing again.
I thought that your note here from God, I love Harry Kane. I thought that was a quote from Tilsa that you'd put in a first.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, he gets a lot of criticism, but watching this goal, that's what he's there for. And he is one of the greatest England strikers of all time already. Based on how far they've got at tournaments with him as captain.
Yeah.
I don't care. People can say whatever they want around that.
It looks like he'll become England's top scorer as well, won't it, at some point ever? I mean, he can't be far off it now.
Yeah, no.
He must be on about 40. I think he's around Michael Owen's total of about 40.
Isn't he only about 5 goals off?
Really?
I'm sure because he scored a lot in our recent friendlies. Well, the commentator's going absolutely crazy, and the stadium's going crazy.
I really love Tilsley at this point, and he's just got his delivery of some of these terms are brilliant. I used to love when you'd kind of see him on like a Champions League night or something, and you'd hear like a goal will go in, and he'd go 1-0. And it's just the way he says it, and he says things like Rooney, and he's just got his 2-level delivery on certain things.
Absolutely. Just to finish off that Harry Kane segment there, Harry Kane has scored 48 goals for England. Wayne Rooney scored 53.
Really?
He's 5 goals off. He could probably get it this year if we have a good World Cup.
God, I didn't think he was on 48. So he's level then with Lineker, I think.
I think he's 1 off Lineker. I could be wrong. Oh no,
49 is Lineker on, is he?
Anyhow, England are now 2-1 up. Lee Dixon saying England are a complete team. Maybe not, but
I just think that's a bit much, especially from you look at this second half performance, and England have missed a bit of guile and a bit of finishing, and you think, well, I don't think they are the complete team at this point. They're better and they're in a different place to where they were against Croatia in the World Cup. But yeah, I think you look at it now and you'd say as we sit here today in kind of 2022, there are a more complete team if they can do more things.
Yeah, they're not the complete team.
No.
But I tell you what, watching that goal go in and the roar from that stadium, that's genuinely my first actual bit of excitement for the World Cup. It's all been dread so far, but Harry Kane's still here. Come on, England. I guess the rest of the game really plays out with not much not much of note.
Yeah, there's not much happens. I think England kind of do see it out of anything. I don't think Croatia particularly have another chance. It's interesting that man of the match is given to Harry Kane, who's after the first 10 minutes and then a goal, he doesn't really do that much. When you'd probably say England's two best players for me were Barkley and Rashford, and neither of them are on the pitch.
Yeah, I would maybe add John Stones, but then
I think there's just a couple.
Defending's been a bit suspect.
I think it's just a couple of those occasions where he kind of does let himself down and he dives into these challenges, and if he wins them, brilliant. But if he doesn't, I think it really, really hurts the team.
So England do see it out, and they win, and they are through to the Nations League next round, whatever that is.
This new space tournament.
Yeah, Croatia relegated. Stuff that up your bloody bums. A big drum version of Football's Coming Home rings out around Wembley. The good times are back, baby.
Yeah, it's a really good atmosphere by the look of it, isn't it? And I can't remember if it was us talking about it a while ago, but we were saying about you go to Wembley for Wembley moments.
Yeah,
I think that's become a bit more of a thing over the last couple of years with the team doing well.
This is one, definitely. Yeah.
It's the point where you probably say that there is good feeling around the team from the whole country, and after the World Cup, and you've got a result like this, and you see it at what happened at the Euros as well, with so many games being played in England, kind of up to the final, the atmosphere was always really good, and there was this thing of even because again we've been to Wembley once together, but I was just thinking, God, I'd love to go to Wembley to watch England in a tournament style game, really.
Yeah, well, those lucky people in the stadium did. What happened after the game then in terms of the Nations League?
Yeah, so the aftermath of this is England go to Portugal in 2019, lose in extra time to the Netherlands. It was a bit of a strange game in terms of there was like a very fine offside against Jesse Lingard given, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. Bit of VAR.
Yeah. So the Netherlands went through, but England finished third in the Nations League. They beat Switzerland on penalties, and Jordan Pickford scored a penalty.
Yeah, I'd trust him to score a penalty. Did he? He didn't take one against Italy, did he?
No. I definitely would back him for it. I remember in that game as well, I think I only switched on. And I was like, oh, the England game must be over by now. I think I just got in and just wanted to see what the
Switzerland
score was.
one, right?
Yeah,
not the Italy one.
No, the Switzerland one. I remember it's gone to penalty straight away. And Pickford scores one. I remember Maguire scoring one as well. And again, his penalty was so good in that Italy final as well. I remember it just broke that camera.
Yeah, I think we should try and not mention the Italy game next time we record.
We'll see.
It's just it hangs over everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that tournament starts with us meeting Croatia, obviously, as we mentioned earlier. We put them to the sword nice and easy. Yeah, no problem.
Little slugs.
Yep, absolutely. Who cares what else happened to them after that, because it wasn't much. Nick, we're pretty much there now. There's only one question, really. Was this England? Is this game England?
I don't think it is. I don't think it's a big representation of what it is, because going into the game, the concept of England being one of the first sides in international football ever to be relegated is, again, quite fitting and thrilling. And England did avoid that, and kind of when it was in their own hands as well, they kind of balls it up at a point, and it was okay, this is what's going to happen with England. But they pull it round and they again progress. And there was a lot of talk after the game about going into a semi-final and another one. So Southgate was counting that as a semi-final appearance in a major competition to get it into players' heads, which I think was good. But yeah, I don't think this is what we would define as an England kind of performance, and a result or a moment, maybe.
I would agree with you. It's too good for a start.
It's too good for us.
Coming back to win late, there was a good period of it where it was very England, say when we were staring down the barrel of relegation. This maybe is Southgate's England, though. There's a lot more success around this team. Yeah. But overall, a lot of fun. Yeah. Not England. But hey, we won and put Croatia to the sword. Yeah. I don't think there's much else to say, Nick.
No, not too much. Apart from obviously get in touch if there's any particular games that you wanna cover. I've had a few people suggest Algeria 0, England 0.
100%. 2010 World Cup, we're doing that.
Yeah, so see if we can try find a 90-minute of that. But no, obviously there's kind of all like the major games. We've got them all down. We've got an ideas of what we want to do and when we want to do them. Maybe release a couple around certain occasions when we play teams like Italy and Germany over the next period. But
yeah.
There's
a few to choose from there.
Yeah, but we've got ideas of what we want to do. But if there is particular games that you want covered or you think are quite interesting through any period of England, really, then get in touch.
Yeah, get in touch at
isthiss_England. You can also email us at isthisenglandpod@gmail.com.
Thank you very much. Take care, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.